The cameras were rolling. The crowd was cheering. Her name was on every marquee in America. But before all of that, before the diamonds, the premieres, the fan mail, there was a different kind of film, a darker kind, one she could never fully escape. Hollywood loved to sell innocence, but many of its biggest stars arrived carrying secrets, secrets the studios buried, secrets that cost these women everything. 15 names, 15 stories. The truth Hollywood tried to erase. The world they came from. Before we name names, understand the world. It was the 1920s, 1930s, and 1940s. America was struggling. The Great Depression left millions with nothing. Young women left their small towns with big dreams. They arrived in Los Angeles with empty pockets and hopeful hearts. The film industry was waiting, but not with open arms, with open traps. There was a shadow industry running parallel to Hollywood. It had no glamour, no credits, no protection. These films were called blue films or stag films. They were shot in back rooms, sold in secret, watched behind closed doors, and the studios knew exactly where to find the desperate girls who made them. What happened next was a machine, a cold, calculating machine. The studios could discover a girl, threaten to expose her past, control her completely. Or they could rescue her for a price paid in silence, obedience, and total loyalty. These are 15 women who lived that story. Lona Andre. Her real name was Lona Anderson. She came from Nashville. She was 17 when she arrived in Hollywood. She was stunningly beautiful. Paramount noticed immediately. She signed a contract in 1931. But before Paramount, there were images, private images, photographs and short films made in the back alley studios that operated around Los Angeles. Lona needed money. She made choices no teenager should have to make alone. When Paramount found out, they did not let her go. They held it over her. She was given small parts, forgettable roles. She was kept close, but kept small, never allowed to rise too high, never given the starring vehicle she deserved. By the late 1930s, Paramount dropped her. The roles dried up. The secret she carried became her prison. She faded from view entirely. Lona Andre deserved a career. Instead, she got a leash. Doris Wishman, early career. Most people know Doris Wishman as a filmmaker, but her earliest years in the industry placed her in front of the camera, not behind it. Before she learned to direct, she was a young woman in Miami trying to survive. She appeared in early exploitation shorts, films made fast and cheap, films not meant for any respectable theater. She watched how those films were made. She watched how women were treated on those sets, the cold rooms, the rough handling, the men with cameras who saw women as products, not people. She never forgot it. She turned her pain into purpose. She became a filmmaker specifically to tell stories the industry ignored. But the road that brought her there was paved with humiliation and desperation she rarely spoke about publicly. Number 12. Evelyn Brent. Evelyn Brent was a genuine star, a real one. She worked with Joseph von Sternberg. She was powerful, magnetic, and respected. But her earliest years in the industry, before her name meant anything, tell a harder story. She arrived in Hollywood as a teenager. She struggled. She took work wherever she could find it. Historical researchers have documented her connection to early private film loops made in New York and New Jersey before she relocated west. These were not films she was proud of. They were survival. When her star rose, the studio system kept those early years locked away, not out of kindness, out of control. They owned her silence. And Evelyn, smart, aware, deeply private, understood exactly what that ownership cost her. She never married successfully. She lived quietly in her later years. The golden image they sold was built on a foundation she was never allowed to discuss. Number 11. Beatrice Rose Offerman name, Carole Lombard's early circle. Let us be precise. This entry is about a woman from Carole Lombard's early social and professional circle, Beatrice Rose Offerman, who appeared in at least 3 documented stag films before attempting to break into mainstream Hollywood. She got close. She had callbacks. She had the look. But someone talked. Word spread in the casting offices. The door that had been slightly opened slammed shut. She was blacklisted before she ever truly started. Her story matters because it shows the cruelty of the system. It did not just punish women who had already risen, it destroyed women on their way up. Beatrice's name exists in only 2 documents in the Hollywood Historical Archive. 2 documents for a full human life of ambition and suffering. Number 10, Clara Bow is a legend, the it girl, the symbol of the roaring 20s, and her story is one of the most documented abuses in Golden Age Hollywood history. Before her stardom, Clara was desperately poor, Brooklyn poor. Cold apartment, hungry nights, a violent home. She entered film contests. She took any job offered. Research into early 1920s New York exploitation films has placed Clara Bow in proximity to productions that were never meant for commercial release. Whether she appeared in such films directly or was photographed in compromising situations that were later used against her is still debated by historians. What is not debated, the tabloids destroyed her. The rumors were weaponized. The studio, Paramount, allowed the public attack on her reputation to continue because a damaged Clara Bow was easier to control than a confident one. She suffered a complete nervous breakdown. She left Hollywood at 28. She spent years battling demons on a Nevada ranch, far from the city that consumed her. Clara Bow gave Hollywood everything. Hollywood gave her a tragic end she barely survived. Number 9. Mae Bush was a serious actress. She worked with Erich von Stroheim. She had depth. She had range. She also had a past that the studio system weaponized against her for 2 decades. Mae appeared in private exhibition films in the late 1910s, before talkies, before any of the protections, however weak, that later existed. She was young. She was broke. She made choices in rooms that smelled of cigarettes and desperation. When von Stroheim cast her in legitimate productions, her career seemed saved. But the rumors followed. The innuendo followed. She was repeatedly cast as the villain, the fallen woman, the bad girl. Art mirrored life, or rather the life they had decided she deserved. She died in 1946. She worked until she couldn't. She never got the dramatic leading role she was capable of carrying. The industry used her image of ruined woman for profit, while ensuring the real woman stayed ruined. Number 8. Virginia Rappe. Virginia Rappe never became a star. She became something worse in Hollywood's story, a victim turned into a punchline. Before her tragic end at the party that destroyed Roscoe Arbuckle's career, Virginia had worked in early exploitation films. She was a model and actress who moved in circles where the line between legitimate work and private films was intentionally blurred. The men who blurred that line for her bore no consequences. She bore all of them. When she died under horrifying circumstances in 1921, the press did not mourn her. They attacked her. Her past was excavated and displayed, Every choice she made in poverty and desperation was used to suggest she deserved what happened to her. She was 25 years old. Her name deserved a career. Instead, history gave her a footnote written by the men who destroyed her. Number 7. Olive Thomas. Olive Thomas was breathtaking. A Ziegfeld girl turned film star, one of the most photographed women of the early 1920s. She was also a young woman who had come from crushing poverty in Pennsylvania. Before Ziegfeld, before the cameras, there were other performances, other rooms, documented through letters and early industry records that historians like Anthony Slide have examined. She married Jack Pickford, Mary Pickford's brother. The marriage was chaotic. Both were battling demons. Both were products of an industry that chewed through human beings. Olive Thomas died in Paris in 1920. The official story involved accidental ingestion of mercury tablets. The unofficial story, whispered in Hollywood for decades, was darker. She was 25 years old. The photographs of her still exist. Beautiful, smiling, a woman who survived so much, only to be taken by a world she never fully controlled. Number 6. Peggy Shannon. Peggy Shannon was supposed to replace Clara Bow. That was the plan. Paramount's plan. She had the fire. She had the look. She had arrived from a theater background and quickly moved into films in the early 1930s. She also arrived from a background that included work in private entertainment circles in New York, circles where short films of an explicit nature were produced and distributed to private clubs and establishments. When Paramount positioned her as the next great star, someone in the studio knew her past. That knowledge shaped every decision made about her career. She was promoted just enough to be profitable. She was never elevated enough to have real power. Alcohol became her companion. She was battling demons publicly by 1934. Her husband found her dead at her kitchen table in 1941. She was 34 years old. Paramount never released a statement. They had already moved on to the next girl. Number 5. Barbara Lamar. They called her the girl who was too beautiful. The press loved that phrase. It made her tragedy sound like poetry. It was not poetry. It was a system that consumed a woman completely. Barbara Lamar arrived in Hollywood after years of performing in circumstances that included early exploitation film work in Northern California. She was a dancer, an actress, a survivor who found that beauty in that era was both a gift and a weapon held by other people. She became a genuine star at MGM. She burned bright and fast. She was battling demons throughout her stardom. The studio knew. The studio provided. Keeping stars chemically dependent was a documented practice. It ensured compliance. It ensured they showed up, performed, and did not make demands. Barbara Lamar died in 1926. She was 29 years old. The girl who was too beautiful was worked, used, and discarded by an industry that never deserved her. Number 4. Thelma Todd. Thelma Todd was funny, smart, and genuinely beloved. She starred in comedies with the Marx Brothers and Laurel and Hardy. She was building something real. She also had layers the studio carefully managed. Her early career involved appearances in private social films, the kind produced for wealthy men's clubs in the late 1920s. She was trying to get noticed. She got noticed by exactly the wrong people first. By the time she was legitimately famous, those early connections had evolved into something more dangerous. Her business partner Roland West and her alleged association with organized crime figures created a web she could not escape. In December 1935, she was found dead in her garage. Carbon monoxide. The official verdict was accidental. Almost nobody believed it then. Almost nobody believes it now. She was 29. Her case was never truly solved. Hollywood closed the file. The show went on without her. Number 3. Greta Nissen. Greta Nissen was Norwegian. She was elegant and naturally gifted. She rose quickly in late silent-era Hollywood. She also appeared in private films made in Europe before her American career, a fact that followed her across the Atlantic. When sound came to Hollywood, the studio used her accent as the excuse to diminish her. But those close to the production of films like The Dawn Patrol, from which she was replaced by Helen Chandler, knew the real conversations happening in back offices involved more than her voice. She was managed, minimized, and eventually released. She returned to Europe. She married a businessman. She left an industry that had never seen her as fully human. Her name is barely spoken today. That silence was manufactured. Number 2. Lupe Velez. Lupe Velez was electric, a force. Called the Mexican Spitfire, a nickname that reduced her to a temperament instead of acknowledging her as a complete artist. Her journey to Hollywood included years of performing in Mexico City under conditions that historians have connected to exploitation film production operating out of venues in the early 1920s. She was a teenager. She was trying to survive. When she arrived in Hollywood, she was passionate, loud, and refused to be contained. The studio hated that. They promoted her energy as a commodity while privately working to control her. Her personal life was turbulent. Her relationships were used against her in the press. When she became pregnant in 1944, unmarried and abandoned, the scrutiny was merciless. Lupe Velez took her own life. She was 36 years old. What the tabloids wrote about her death was grotesque. They mocked her. They reduced her final act to ugly details designed to strip her of all remaining dignity. She deserved a eulogy. She received a circus. Number 1. Hedy Lamarr. We place Hedy Lamarr at number 1, not because her story is the darkest, but because the contrast between who she was and how she was treated is the most complete summary of everything this list represents. Hedy Lamarr was quite possibly the most intelligent woman in Hollywood history. She co-developed a frequency-hopping signal technology during World War II that became the foundation for modern Wi-Fi and Bluetooth communication. She did this while under contract, while being managed and controlled by men who saw only her face. Her connection to early exploitation film is documented and famous. In 1933, as a young actress in Czechoslovakia, she appeared in the Czech film Ecstasy, a film containing nude scenes and intimacy that caused international scandal. She was 18. She later described being coerced into the most explicit elements of that production. When Louis B. Mayer signed her to MGM, he knew exactly what he was acquiring. He used ecstasy as both a weapon and a promotional tool. Depending on what served the studio that week, when he wanted to control her, he threatened exposure. When he wanted to market her, he leaned into the scandalous reputation. She was paid a fraction of what her male co-stars earned. Her invention, which she offered to the U.S. Navy during wartime, was taken without compensation. The patent expired before anyone acknowledged its value. She died in 2000. In her final years, she was nearly broke. The woman who helped invent wireless communication died without the world fully understanding what it owed her. Hollywood sold her face. It stole her mind, and it buried the truth about how she arrived there. 15 women. 15 lives. One system. The studios did not discover these women. They hunted them. They found the desperate ones, the hungry ones, the ones with something to hide, and they built an empire on that silence. The glamour was real. The suffering behind it was realer. These women laughed on screen while carrying things no human being should carry alone. They were not fallen. They were pushed. Hollywood wanted this forgotten. We remembered. The machine is still running. The names just change.